You know, in partnership with the Green Lake Library and the Duwamish tribe, we welcome you to this First Nation celebration. We come together to share our stories, poems, music, and thoughts. And we have a special treat. We have the great-great-grandniece of Chief Seattle here, who is also the chairman of the Duwamish tribe for the last 37 years. She'll come up and say a few words. Cecile Hansen.
Oh my. Well, I'm honored to be here today to share with you. Been involved in the tribe, as I said, for 37 years, and not because that was my mission, just trying to raise my family and cook. And I lived in Riverton, which is now Tukwila. And I was just sharing with some friends of mine that we were talking about Judge Bolt's case. I don't know if anybody heard about that, but that was a major case where the white people were fighting the Indians for fishing, for fish. And they said those Indians are taking all the fish. So it went into a case, a federal case. Well, what the judge did was between the Caucasians and the Indian people, he said 50-50. So, but anyway, we were one of the tribes that was the intervener in that case. And Judge Bolt, God bless him, as he rests in peace today, said that our tribe was not a political entity and they ruled against us. So we lost the right to fish in the Duwamish River. And so there was a gentleman interviewing me yesterday in the Longhouse. We are on West Marginal Way. If you guys want to come and visit us at the Longhouse, please come and visit us. But anyway, he said, well, how did that happen? So I had to tell him about Judge Bolt case and losing the right to fish. And now the Duwamish River is the Superfund. It's a polluted river. Am I talking too much? Maybe I should. But anyway, that's what came up with a friend of mine talking about fishing and the Duwamish River, and we don't have the right to fish there. And I frankly don't care, because I said, what do you care? I said, I don't care, because we can't fish in it, and it's a Superfund. And then I hear that there's another tribe catching the fish and selling it to Safeway, so I'd be very careful. Ooh. I know that. Yeah, so I'd be very careful. I mean, yes, eat the fish, but don't continue to buy the fish from Safeway. And there was a gentleman, I was volunteering at a church in Burien several years ago, because our office was up there. And this gentleman said, oh my gosh, I bought some fish down at the Duwamish River. And I said, well, that's nice, but don't indulge very much, because it's not safe. We don't know, but the Duwamish River, they say they're cleaning it up. I have a former chair, a council person that works on the what's the name of that? In fact, this whole bunch of people are trying to restore the river. Yeah, restoration. I should know that, because our former James Rasmussen works on that office, and so he's helping them. But he's a Native American, and he never fished in his life, but he cares. He cares. We care about the indigenous area. If you know anything about this tribe, we signed a treaty. I have to say this, we signed a treaty 150 years ago and gave up 54,000 acres, which is Seattle. And these wonderful settlers said, well, we'll name the city after our chief. Okay. But they forgot, when we signed the treaty in 1855, they forgot to give us a reservation. Now they lobbied against our people. We wouldn't get a reservation in Elki. Elki is a pretty nice place. Our people lived in Black River, and those people, they lobbied against us, so we didn't get a reservation over there. And of course, we were okay to work in the sawmills, and the fish, fishing in down the little, all the settlers had businesses. That was okay, but we had to leave town. We had to be out of town. And there's an ordinance. I don't know. I I've been invited down to City Hall this month, and I should ask the mayor if that ordinance is still on the books, because I'm going to go to the City Hall and give a prayer to these people. I don't know if it's I think it's after the election, so who knows what's going to happen. Good luck to everybody, right? Good luck, good luck. No, but that's right. They signed an ordinance to keep us, when it got dark, you better get out of town. So, but I must say that my involvement, which was 37 years ago, back to the river, my brother was fishing down there, and they kept citing him, the state fisheries. And since I lived in Tukwila and Riverton Heights, he'd come up from the river after he got cited all angry, and he said, "You have to get involved, Cecile." And I said, "Well, what do I have to do?" He said, "Oh, just go to a few meetings." So what happened was I started working with the former chair, Willard Bill, and there was a bunch of people trying to organize and try to help the tribe at that time. And Willard Bill decided he's an educator, he wanted to go off to the university and teach, and that was fine. But I didn't realize that our poor tribe was suffering a lot. All I can remember my mom telling me when I was growing up, "We're going to get a lot of money." See, no, that's true. We had all these land claims against and never settled with the tribe from the 20s, 30s, and 40s, 50s, and in the 60s, they said to our tribe and our leaders at that time, "Well, we're going to settle with you." So from 1962 or 63, I'm not sure, it was in the 60s, they settled with every member that could prove their descendancy. We all got $64 for the city of Seattle. Now, I always say I didn't go to Europe on that, but I did buy some, you can buy groceries, so that's what I do with my money. And my poor my aunts, they were crying, because my mother, like I said, was always saying, "We're going to get a lot of money," and that didn't happen. So I think the point is that the fishing, losing that, and not honoring the treaty and suffering, our tribe has suffered some grave injustice. But here I am 37 years later. Well, then they decided to give us acknowledgement too and recognize us in 2001, the last day of the Clinton administration. And then they took it away that year after Bush came in. So anyway, so now we were in appeal. They threw it out of federal court, and the judge said, "Send it back to the Bureau of Indian Affairs." And this is kind of loose, ain't it? Anyway, so the judge said send it back to the feds and reconsider that decision made in 2001. And I just hope, I always say, I don't know why, if we signed a treaty, gave up 54,000 acres as Native Americans, and of course I've been accused, not me, but our tribe, the only reason we want to be acknowledged because we own a casino, and I say yes, downtown, Blake Island, Elliott Bay, I don't care, all over the place. And they say, "Is she serious?" I mean, when I got involved 37 years ago, there was no gaming commission nowhere. And it was in the 80s that the Gaming Commission came into play and producing the tribes. Of course, I would support tribes trying to help their people, and they have done, but I always accuse them now they're into greed because they're so afraid that the Duwamish, the people inside, want a casino. And as my daughter says to me, who's worked for me since 1983, we'll be allowed to do anything we want to do. That isn't the reason we got involved. It was to correct the injustice dealt to this tribe. And nobody in the 80s was thinking of casinos. And if tribes do well for their people, then I commend them. I honor them, and I think that's great. But to accuse the poor Duwamish people who've been still suffering, but I will say we have been blessed. We do, now listen to this, we own 2/3 of an acre over there by the river.
That you had to buy.
That we had to buy. Well, we own it, we paid for it, we raised money, we built our longhouse, and it's all paid for, and a lot of deep pockets from Gates and what's the other guy that, yeah, that guy, and a lot of deep pockets helped us pay for it. So, and the whole idea is that we're bringing back our culture and language and everything else. And I just had some people show up yesterday, and they were from Lislett's tribe and down south, and they were on their way to Tulalip to some doings up there. So we have visitors, I'm telling you, from all over the world. Now I'm going to be meeting with the mayor of Pelusa, Italy, who was at the Longhouse recently and is coming back and is going to be at the mayor's office. So we have a lot of people who, for whatever reason, get on their computers and they come and they visit us. So it isn't always that we're not known, it's just that I think that sometimes, and we're not the only tribe, I realized when I start working for the tribe that at that time in the 70s there was over 400 tribes trying to correct their status. Now I have to say this, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but if the Columbus never showed up on the eastern coast, and I know that none of you had to prove who you are, I don't know why Native Americans have to prove where they come from. It's unfair. So I'm challenging you guys to all change the law or something. Well, whatever, I know you can't, but we can speak up. We can speak up, can't we? Because we all have a voice. Yeah. Anyway, I'm here with one of my tribal members who's going to probably sing a song or two, and I've known this. He's like my grandson now, and so I've known him since like this. Now he's 6'2". How tall are you? 6'3". Yeah. So he's like my grandson. Well, he is my grandson. I've claimed him. Anyway, I'm so happy I'm able to share some of the tribe. And if you don't remember anything about today and what I've talked about, just remember that Duwamish means the people of the inside, even though they suffer injustice. And thank you for inviting me to come. I almost didn't come because of the wind. Wow. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, it sounds to me like the law of contract. If you made a contract to give up 50,000 acres and you're supposed to get a reservation, and they didn't give you the reservation, therefore the contract should be invalid. You should be able to start collecting rent from these guys downtown. Listen, we have an international celebrity here today, and I'm going to ask her to come up and say a few words. Dorley Rainey, who went all over the world when they pepper sprayed her. Dorley?
Thank you very much. This is a real surprise. I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to make any speeches. But I do want to tell you, when I first came to the United States, I had learned my American history in Austria during the war. And what I learned in the American history then was not quite the American history that the children here learn. Howard Zinn is more correct in what he says about history in the United States and the history of the tribes. So when I came over here, I was really wondering just how did it go with the natives. And I got here in end of March, and in April, a beautiful spring day, my husband said, let's go on a road trip out to the peninsula. So we went out and we came down 101, and he says, and down there is an Indian reservation at Nia Bay. And I was in total shock, even though the history that I'd heard was closer to the actual happenings. I never, ever can forget the impact that picture had on me. Those tiny shacks, little children running around almost naked with torn clothing. There was no road, there was only sand and little shacks. There was no school anywhere there, and there were no stores, nothing. I'm not sure how the people survived down there at Nia Bay. And so ever since then, I've been really interested in what is happening with the tribes and what's going on. And it really hurts my feelings like crazy to think that our beautiful Daybreak Center is now probably going belly up pretty soon. So the tribes are suffering still all the time, wherever they are. You know, fishing in Superfund sites is not exactly a good thing to do. And just a little highlight. My son is an artist, and there was a man who threw acid on the statue of Chief Seattle down at Five Corners on Broad Street. And my son repaired it. And every time I go by there, I think that was the best thing that happened. So I just let the program go on, and thank you for coming. I'm looking forward to hearing more about this. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You know, October the 12th, they had repeated this. They had the first First Nation celebration out on Duwamish, marginal way southwest. And there's two marginal ways. One you get, and it's very confusing to get out there. So I think I'm starting a personal campaign to change that name, Marginal Way Southwest, to Duwamish Way, where their longhouse is. So it help write to the city council, and let's do it. You know, we might as well have Blake Shelifo come and give a performance. He's from the tribe, and I saw him out at the longhouse, and he's wonderful. You do it?
I was actually raised on not using one of these things because 150 years ago, our people needed to be heard across the water, so we would have loud voices. And Chief Seattle is known for his loud voice. I'm in no way, shape, or form related to Chief Seattle, but you know, I take on his image as best as I can, just like any other tribal member. Am I not speaking loud enough? My reaction's fast. Look at that. Twagulapu, Gulapu Tidishat, Gulapu Tidishat, Quikwalik Titstad, Duabschash, Duabschash, Asasho Chad at the shoreline, Asasho Chad at the shoreline. To all my friends and my relatives, my name is Little Helper, Quikwalik. I'm a Duwamish tribal member, or a member of the people of the inside. I've been involved with my tribe, and I live in Shoreline. That's where the shoreline comes from. Thank you. And I've been involved with my tribe since I was about this big. I see a couple familiar faces here that see me when I was this little, and I used to run around, and I would try to dance and drum at the same time, and sing. So I was trying to multitask, and if you've ever tried to drum, sing, and dance at the same time, it doesn't work. After a few years of doing that, I realized when a few teachers came along that you just can't get away with that. You run out of breath, or your legs go out onto you, or you can't actually do the hand gestures and drum at the same time. So I quit drumming, and I started dancing, and I danced for maybe 8 years straight. I love dancing. And then the drum was gifted to me, and I'm like, let me try singing. So I tried singing, and I learned to sing. So on the 12th of last month, we were asked to sing a couple songs and, tell a couple stories. So I got up there and sang a couple songs, which I'm going to share one of the songs that I sang on the 12th. This song does belong to me. I was... last year on the canoe journey, it was an interesting canoe journey. It was the first time that the Raven was back on the water after a few years. And I was outside, and there's a difference between an eagle and a hawk. Eagles are very distinguished. You can tell what they are from a distance, and you can definitely tell what they are up close. Hawks also have their own look to them. They're a little bit smaller. If you look at them closer up, to me, they're more vicious. They have this vicious look about them. And there was two eagles that were flying up above, two hawks flying up above me. And as I was just staring at them. I couldn't help but look at them. In our culture, eagles and hawks are held in the highest manner. And so I'm staring at these hawks, and this song comes to me. And songs, when they come to you, you don't just sing it how it's given. You let it form into what it is. A newborn doesn't just stay a newborn for the rest of its life, right? We were all newborns once, and we grow. And that's what happens with songs, at least the way I was taught they grow. So I'm going to sing this song the way that it grew. I've sang it a couple different ways, but this song is a hawk song. So I'm going to sing it how it is. And I don't know if I'm telling a story or not up here. Do you want me to tell a story? I can tell a story too. Yeah, I'm not multi-talented. I'm not trying to be famous in any way, but the tribe has asked a lot of me. I am the cultural teacher at the Duwamish Longhouse, along with the song and dance coordinator. So I've been involved with the tribe for 15 years. Excuse me if I'm turning red. I don't like to talk. I try not to talk about myself or put myself on a pedestal because I'm still learning. There's a lot of teachers that I listen to and I still learn from. I'm young, so I can't stand up here and say I know it all. But I'm now asked to teach songs, and I'm now asked to teach stories. And so a lot of these stories that I end up knowing or hearing are from other people. And so I pass the stories on. Let me share this song with you guys. You guys are probably, come on, sing this song already. Jeez. Wait, hey, oh. Wait, hey, oh, wait, hey. So our tribe, when I was growing up, we had a lot of songs that were given to us. A lot of these songs we still use today, but we don't have a lot of our own songs. And some of the songs that we are getting on our own are songs that come to us. My cousin has a couple songs. I have a few songs. And so our culture, while we've had it and we grew up with it, and I can vouch for that because like I said, I've been involved for 15 years singing and dancing a lot of these songs. Some of our culture is being established by our youth. I'm one of the youngest, or not one of the youngest, one of the oldest, excuse me. I'm one of the youngest, I'm not little anymore. I'm one of the oldest youth in our tribe. My brother would be the oldest, and then trickle all the way down to, now these young ones that are running around and newborns that are right around the corner. So we have tribal members that are involved, youth that are involved. As a matter of fact, they were really writing me because I work, so it's everyone that works understands how this works. You work and you end up getting really busy, and the days off that you get, you kind of want to spend by yourself. Well, they've been really on me about having practice on Sundays, my only day off. And so I don't know if we're going to have practice or not, but they still want to go out and have practice and share songs and, who knows, share a few stories or something. I don't want to take up too much time. I want to be kind of respectful of everybody else that can hear the story tell, but there is a personal story that I want to share. And this story I've been sharing here and there, left and right, and actually my first time sharing it was October 12th. I was asked, I had came from a friend's funeral service, and I was asked to share a story, and I said, yeah, I'll be there. I'll share a story. And I get there, they're like, what story are you going to tell? I don't know. What? I'm like, just put me on stage, I'll figure it out. That's kind of how I like to do it. So this story is it's a real story, so please believe me when I tell you this story. Please believe me. This story is about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the big, scary, hairy man that walks around. It's also a story about the little people. In our culture, these are very real stories. And I'm telling you a personal story. Oh, I'm telling you a personal story. See, my name is Grandpa Spirit. That's what they call me. I got this name because I tell stories and I talk like this. Oh, and how I love to tell my stories and get everybody involved. And how I like to stand up on stage and make myself look good. Oh, wait, no, that's a different stage. Excuse me. Again, my name is Grandpa Spirit. Let me tell you the story about the big people. Don't mind the other guy that was talking. He's young. This story is over 150 years old, about as old as I am. Long time ago. Oh, in our culture, there's a saying that we use to know that you guys are listening. We say habu. Can everybody say habu? Habu. Habu means I'm listening. So I might stop and forget what I'm saying, so I need to know that you guys are listening, because I'm old. Oh, I'm really old. Don't mind me. I don't look as old as I am, but I'm old. Long time ago, there lived everybody happy. They were happy together. There was no fighting. There was no arguing. We all lived in harmony. The humans, we went out, we hunted. We were brave warriors. And we would go out and get our food for our young. Our women would weave the baskets. And they would take care of the young ones. And they would feed us because, well, they're lovely. We love our women. Oh, but there was the little people. We called them the stick people because they're so small and tiny. And they stood about this tall, and they talk like this. Oh, hey, how you doing today? It's good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Oh, it was funny. They had this voice that was so screechy and loud. we would never see them. We'd walk around left and right, and we would accidentally step on one. And how you knew you stepped on one is you'd hear, and they'd yell, ah! We looked, oh, I didn't see you, I'm sorry. So these little people, they grew angry. Not literally, they grew angry. You guys thought I was going to say they grew big. See the expression on your guys' faces. Oh, they grew angry with us humans because we were so tall. And we stood brave. We went out and hunted big animals, from whales to buffaloes. And how they just grew this anger, and they got together and they said,
Hey! Oh, I know what we can do. We have to scare these humans. We have to get back at them. Oh, yes.
oh, and how they were smart though. These little people, they had brains, just like us humans, but they were smarter than us. They stayed in the woods. They stayed away from everybody. And they had their houses. Their houses were built out of cedar, just like everything that we use today. Oh, I'm still 150 years ago. Excuse me. Cedar is very sacred to us. So we would go out to the woods and we would get the cedar to build our canoes, to build our longhouses. Oh, thank you. I forgot what I was saying. So we would use everything to build with cedar. Cedar was very sacred to us, but it was also sacred to the little people. They would build their little long houses. They're so cute. Remind me of something my kids would play with. They would build their little toy cars, their little stick cars they would drive around in. You guys don't get that one, do you? Ah, thank you. There we go. Nah. Abu, thank you. So, they grew angry over time. And this wasn't a day thing. This took years. They grew angry.
And I know what we can do. We can scare the humans. We can scare them away from us so that we get the cedar.
They were selfish. They didn't know how to share us. Humans, see, we would share things. If our neighbor needed some berries, we would give them some berries. If they needed a helping hand, we would help them. We were very helping people.
Oh, I know what we can do.
So they came up with a plan. They were hiding behind a bush one day, and
Oh, watch this.
we would look at them. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're so tiny. They couldn't scare us. They weren't big enough. Us humans, we hunted whales. We weren't scared of anything. We loved everything also. So we paid our respects, but the stick people, they thought they knew how to scare us. Again, they would try. They would hide in our closets, and they would come out.
Hey!
Again, what are you doing? Go home. I might step on you. Jeez. But one of them was smarter than the rest. One of them came up with an idea.
Oh, yes. I know what we can do. We have power. We can make them think that we're bigger and scarier. Oh, and hairier. Oh.
See, the stick people, they had mastered astral projection. Well, that's what they called it now. That's what they call it nowadays. But back then, we called it spirit walking, because you can walk with the spirits when you have dreams that you're flying, when you have dreams that you're elsewhere in the world, and it seems so real. You're spirit walking. So don't think you're really flying. You might wake up out of your bed or something. So they came up with this plan.
Oh, yes.
And as they came up with it,
Yes, we came up with it.
there was a young man. He's about this tall. Oh, no, more like this tall. And he was going to the woods to gather some cedar. As he approached the edge of the woods, how many of you have heard of Sasquatch stories? How many of you have seen Sasquatch? You have seen him. You have seen him. He's tall, about as tall as my hand, big red eyes, hairy. Our perception is deceiving, isn't it? This young man was walking to the edge of the woods, and before he got there, came from the woods a loud screech that shook everybody, just like I just shook you guys. And the young man, he stopped and he stood there and he was frightened. He didn't know what to do. He was stuttering. Our people don't stutter. We're brave. How can a noise that loud come from any creature? So he ran back to the village to get the other men. The men, we went out and we looked. We looked everywhere. I was one of them. I looked for this creature that stood taller than any man with big red eyes and was hairy. I couldn't find him. I looked for every evidence in the world. I could not find him. We went all the way through the woods. Again, the next day, this same young man. All the meanwhile, let me distract you guys for a minute. All the meanwhile, these little people, they're in the woods. Oops. They're in the woods and they're like,
Hey, boy, it's working. We're scaring these people. Oh, yes. Yes, we're going to scare the humans away from the woods. These woods will belong to us.
all the meanwhile, these little people were coming up with this master plan. And us humans, we were looking for this creature. We forgot about the little people. We were so busy looking for this big, scary, hairy creature that in the night. Oh, we looked week after week, year after year for this big, tall, scary, hairy creature with big red eyes. And we have yet to find him today. So again, I ask, how many have you seen Sasquatch? How many have you heard of Sasquatch? Well, I'm here to tell you that this big, tall, hairy, scary creature is not that big. He's really this small. And that's why we can't find him. Thank you. And I think that would be it. If that's okay. I'm not sure. I was asked to come yesterday, short notice, but I want to thank you guys for being here, and thank you for letting me spend 20 minutes of your time.
Thank you, Blake. That was wonderful. If you're going to be around, I think Herd McLeese will be coming up in a little bit, and he might use a little drum help. Listen, our next speaker is Philip H. Red Eagle. He's a born and raised Northwest writer, artist, metalsmith, carver. He's the author of Red Earth, a Vietnam Warrior's Journey, styled into mythical realism, and is now in the second edition publishing, Saltpeter Publishing. He's also an originator and co-founder of Raven Chronicles, a journal of art, literature, the spoken word, started in 1991. It's still going. Currently based in Seattle, Philip is an occasional poet who's these days spends most of his time working with the Tribal Journeys, a cultural movement using the canoe as a vessel for cultural renewal. Philip Red Eagle.
Hi. Oh, we got a few more people since I can see you, Mike. I was thinking, I was reading about your announcement, and it talked about appropriate poetry, and I didn't have any appropriate poetry. So But he wanted me to talk about the canoe movement, and we started off talking about cultural movements back in the 70s, and at the University of Washington, the people that I hung out with, and we used to talk about having a lot of solutions for a lot of things that were going on around, and one of them being recognition. And I don't know if you know this, my grandfather's John Stillicum, and Stillicum people have been fighting for recognition for a long time too. And then we got accepted, and I was going to I'm enrolled with my father's people, and I was going to enroll with the Stillicum, but they're not there. Because the same thing happened.
Yeah, well, I have to interject our great leader that was fighting just as much with a bunch of us, Joan, she passed on, and so
Yeah.
the family care, but they're not as aggressive or retentive as Joan was.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah, they had about 7 stacks of paper this high that, they probably had the same amount. Just stacks and stacks of paper. I don't know who read them, but they actually did get recognition in the Clinton administration. Then they got turned around and George Bush canceled it. So we came up with the same thing. Matter of fact, I was going to change my name to John Stillicum. So I was going to change my name to John Stillicum. Yeah, my father is Dakota. He is from Montana. We just buried him last month, and he died on September 29th. His name was Kopeshne, which is fearless in Dakota. And he was very much like that. I think it was that fearlessness is how he lost his finger, and how he got into trouble. He was always injured, finding himself injured one way or another, but he lived to be 96, going on 97, and he, how all those things come back to haunt you. Well, they were all coming back to haunt him. Every little thing that you do when you're young, comes back and gets you when you're old. And so he had a rough last year. So, but he had a long life, and he, the last thing he said to me, he spoke to me in Dakota, and I'm not very clear on, Dakota language, and because they were raised, my parents were raised not to talk it, even though my father was a native speaker. He was one of the last speakers of the Dakota at Fort Peck. And he said, he was speaking in Dakota, I couldn't make out the words until I got back home, and I was telling one of my cousins about it, and he says, oh yeah, that's, sounds like Wopida. I said, oh yeah, it does sound like a Wopida. And he was saying thank you. Yeah, so I don't know, I think his spirit had already left, the day before. And though it's really funny that when the spirit leaves and then the body follows later, and you have to deal with the human that is in front of you that's dying. So it's very interesting. My mother was that way. Her spirit passed on, and her spirit had a chance to say something to me before she left, and then she just, she died the next day. And that was 10 years ago. So anyway, I'm burdened with being half Salish and half Dakota. And so a lot of people see the name Red Eagle, which is Wamadi Duta in Dakota, and say, well, you're Plains. Well, I was born and raised out here. And so we've always, since I was little, I remember we used to go down on the Puyallup River and have these little fish ends. They'd have fish ends, and this was in the late 40s when I was little. And so the whole fishing rights issue started long before it peaked in the 60s and the 70s. And because people had been down there working, trying to get attention, trying to define the Department of Natural Resources in the state of Washington, and the feds, which eventually worked. But in '78, I don't know if you many knew, we got Freedom of Religion Act for Native peoples, August 8th, August 7th. Same as Hiroshima, I guess. And so, but it took a long time to kind of begin to break out, because you have to kind of absorb what is going on. You have to, kind of realize what's going on. You have to kind of stretch into it. And that's what we were kind of doing. We were stretching into it. I work with communities. I work with the art community here in Seattle for many years. And then started The Raven, wrote Red Earth. And then I met my friend Tom Heidelbaugh, who turned out to be my mentor, and we collaborated on a renovation or kind of a turning of the canoes. The canoes were in movement. They had been in movement for a while, moving around. They would gather together and go places and, and do celebrations. And what we wanted to do was use the canoe as an educational device. So we'd put our children, the young people, into these canoes and let them learn. And about 10 years ago, some of the young men started telling us what to do, and then I knew we were successful. When the young start telling you what to do, because they're way ahead of you on everything, because we raised them correctly, the way they should be raised, with the knowledge and everything and the understanding. So, I was 50 when I came into it. They came into it when they were this high, much like Blake over here. And so they don't understand the differences between how it was before and how difficult it was to move. So we developed this educational program based upon the canoe in '95 and '96 in 2 journeys. And it was that process that became the canoe movement, because the center became down here in Puget Sound. So we began to develop it. Tom died in '97 from cancer. So it kind of went flat for a year, and then it came back in '97, '98, and '98. We came back with the canoes and started pulling all of the things that we had started in '95 and '96 and pouring it back into the canoe, so that we could begin to, instead of going to like one place and then celebrating, we would celebrate at every place and then bring that, the drumming and the singing along with it. In '95, we started out with probably 2 songs, and if we stretched it, maybe 3. We had 3 canoes, and in the last couple of years, I think in 2012, we went up to 104 canoes and 10,000 people. So we've gone from those small beginnings, and I know that the Duwamish have been traveling through with us with the Blue Heron canoe family. They've joined forces. It's very interesting to have this history unfold as we go, because as you begin to paddle from one place to another, people start coming down and they start bringing their stories with them, and the old people start coming down and start bringing their songs and the dances and traditions that have been hidden for 150 years, 100 years, suddenly started coming out of the woodwork, so to speak, out of the cedar works. And it just began to, multiply. What's that word? Exponential. And somebody always knows what it is. Because I'm getting older, and I'm 68, and so I'm kind of losing the quickness. So we have, we feel successful. I feel that we've been successful. I think we have not yet hit our first down into a valley yet. We're still kind of climbing, but we're going to go down. And then we're going to come back up again a little bit higher, and then we're going to keep on going with successive generations. Because we weren't looking at getting it all done in 5 years. We were looking and get it done over 7 generations. Because it took 7 generations to take away that much, it's going to take 7 generations to bring it back. And it may not look exactly the same, but our vision was that if I were standing here and somebody from those 7 generations was standing there, we would not recognize one another. I would not recognize that person because they'd be so far ahead of me that we just could not reach it, that kind of consciousness. And that's what we need to get back. Back in several years ago, they were digging up for a development up in Birch Bay, and they ran into a bunch of grave sites, which they do around here a lot. Now they're kind of relenting and say we've been here 10,000 years. We're pushing for 40. And when they started pulling the remains out, they saw that these people had strong bones and strong teeth. They had all of their teeth. They were over 100 years old. And so that's kind of what we're shooting for. People who get over 100 years old who have all of their teeth, they're in perfect condition. And because that's the way they were before. They understood where they were living. They understood how to live within the means of that world that they were living in, and how to work with what is there. We talked a lot early on about a word called resource, and as you know, I was going to write it down, but I guess you'll just have to imagine it. Resource, one word, to go in and take something out and use it, to make it into something else or eat it. Resource in native cultures are E-source, which means we have a relationship with the source, and it's a circular pattern because we are responsible for it. We don't just come in and take it and sell it or give it away. We have a relationship with it, and that's the big difference about how we should do things and how we're doing things now, and how we're pulling in everything around us and building these buildings and these homes and these houses, but that comes at a cost. And we're having little battles like labeling 522, and people who want to make new things and then own them and then sell them and make money off of them. But that's not how things should be. We should just take care of what we got. And I would think the fish in the Duwamish would be okay because they just came in from the ocean, right? Are they showing any signs of the disease or anything, or?
Well, what they say is down the bottom with that, on the bottom of the river there's odd figured fish and,
Yeah, but those are the home, like the starfish that are falling apart right now.
nevertheless,
Yeah.
why do they call it superfund? I mean, that's not my
Mhm.
definition, and I've been hearing it, so.
Yeah. Super unfunded.
It should, yeah, I agree with you that we should take care of Mother Earth.
Yeah.
All of us, yeah.
All of us, not just you and Duwamish or me. It's, it belongs to every one of us. It's just a matter of, adjusting our head so that we can wrap it around the notion that we're supposed to share, and we're supposed to work with the environment and not destroy it for dollars, basically. Oh, okay. I thought I would. I think I only had one poem that was kind of related to because I tend to write a lot of Vietnam stuff and, you know, things that have happened to me, and a lot of things that have happened to me in this context, this social context, rather than, but things on the canoe, which I really kind of keep that compartmentalized in a way. So I'm not really writing things about it. I'm just more involved with it. And I have a job, I have a process that I do so I avoid politics mostly. So you very rarely hear me talk politically because I have a job. My job is to do the ring ceremony with the canoe movement and to lead by example. So, and that's, you know, that's responsibility that we all have. And so I don't know if you've seen this, and you're not wearing yours. But, you know, these represent journeys that I've been on. And this is a ring that I do the ceremony for. We're about around 6,000 rings now. So I'm still way behind. Well, I guess I'll always be behind. So I can't quit. And you can go online and see this. It'll explain kind of what's going on. It'll explain the ring ceremony. It'll explain the process that we're doing. It is not unwritten. We've adapted it. You know, there's language in here. With the canoes and everything, Salish, and different types of different dialects that are here in this area, the Salish Sea area. Back in, so go online, look for Tribal Journeys Handbook. You'll find it, and you can print it out. There's no copyright on it. You just have to go by your conscience, you know. Because if we see it out there and somebody's trying to sell it, then we'll think about it. It happened so far. Maybe it'll educate somebody. So, you know, I was telling a young man the other day at the Longhouse, and he was talking about going up to the demonstration up here for the John Williams Totem. And he asked me if I was going. I said, no, I don't do that, because I already have a job. I have a commitment. And so I've stayed out of politics. That doesn't mean I don't have a political sense. I do. My political sense is very radical. And so I don't want to jump out with it, because I tend to work hard and push hard and fight hard. And pretty soon that's all I'll be doing. But I have to do what I am doing, which is to maintain the balance of the canoe movement, that's what I see my job as, so that it maintains this movement. Like a few years ago, one of the hosts was talking about what they were going to do, and they were already talking about having tourists come into the gathering. You know, bring the tourists in. And I spoke up and I said, you know, this canoe movement, this what we're doing with the canoes, this cultural movement, is not about tourists. It's what we do for ourselves. What are you going to do? Are you going to bring the tourists in and then keep the native people out? You know, because there's a set amount of seating in there. So they dumped that idea right away. So I can catch it in a moment, and I can speak out. But like I said, maybe when I get into my 80s, I'll get political. I don't know. So I was working on the light rail project in Tacoma. So I got to help design one of the stations down there. And I have this poem that I wrote for it. It's in the class. You've seen it. And yeah.
Just take the light rail downtown Tacoma across the courthouse.
Yeah.
You see Phil's poem embedded in
Yeah, we got the pictures. I took pictures of, you see those sculptures that are lined up there. Those are enlargements of smaller items that we had found and took pictures of and then turned them over to the people who were going to do the sculpture work, and they enlarged them about 100 times. Maybe not 100 times, but 50 times. So I'll read this and I'll step down and it's called Reflection. Raindrops of memories flood outside, a green and brown spattered landscape, berry bushes and tall grass along hillsides, patches of river, glint sunlight and spackle blue and gray. Canoes and geese glide to islands, to sky. Rain clouds obscure mountain tops, red-tailed hawks spiral lazy updrafts. Birds overflow the sky, and the comfort of alder fires warm longhouses along the shore. Salmon gather where fresh water meets the salt, changing from silver to red, transforming for the next generation. Men in canoes thrust bodies forward as spears pierce swirling water. Gliding over cattails and tules, blue jay sings an ancient song, tells 5,000-year-old tales of these new arrivers, the Salish. How they came to this Tahoma river place and set their canoes upon this unnamed bay, or was it the other way around? These hills remember that old story better, yet they lay silent, content to say nothing. In this place, these people grew many clans, came to have many friends and relatives up and down this Salish sea. They learned the way of this water and the mountains and the land. They made new tools and made up their own tales and scoffed at blue jay. Here, Indians fish salmon. Here they meet in potlatch. Their prayers float above Tahoma. Here they chant heart and death. This is the canoe way of life, the way of the cedar and the salmon, and the eagle and the octopus, the mussel and the clam. This is the way of the paddle, of journeys and relations. It is the way of song and drum, earth, spirit. This river, this Puyallup, wealth of the world, these people, Puyallup, people of the water, keepers of the river, people of cedar and rain, old dreams, old songs, old stories, alive in this old world.
Thank you, Philip. Herb McLeese has lived in the Northwest for more than 30 years. He comes from New England, but he was raised in Texas, and I don't think I detect the Texas accent, though. His childhood interest in science took him to Boston and a bachelor's degree from MIT in electrical engineering. McLeese's professional career spans geophysics, software engineering, organizational development, and marketing. Herb began writing poems at the age of 14. His early influences were Poe, Sandburg, and Whitman, among many others. His first published chapbook is called The Catch in 2008. Herb?
Thank you. It's so good to be here. I feel sometimes maybe I'm like one of those salmon turning from silver to red with your influence. It's a great privilege. This poem came to me in a dream. I cannot claim Native American heritage, but who knows, the way things were back in the 19th century and 18th century, it's possible that you had the heritage and they didn't talk about it. But now we can be proud more. This poem begins with a prayer. Eagle Pass. O surrounding countless chorus, we are joined in celebration, fellow creatures of the Spirit, all naked under heaven. The cicada's voice thin and dry, fills the air of our sacred ground. On a bluff, exposed and high, a place for our drums' healing sound. In the west, I can see, by the buck moon's light, twin mesas silhouette and the pass. But as I watch, they fade to scrim. Diversions for my brooding thoughts on the study, incidents of alcoholism in single-parent tribal households, presented today in council. But the drum circle works its magic, and thoughts fade into musings, and soon I am surfing drumbeat waves with turtle shells rattles, insistent frisks, the spray. Around me, dozing elders, mothers singing softly to little ones, snug in their arms, and ah, yes, quiet children, teenagers, hushed in dreamy silence. The drum rhythm begins to change, assuming a lame horse gait, a spellcaster, hypnotic and sky-reaching. Even the stars begin to sway, then to dance in waves, rippling heaven's drumhead. Now slow drumming begins, beaten from the heart, hard won, folded with the spirit. Bless the drummers. The drumming morphs into a lullaby, forgotten yet familiar, which the women begin to sing. Some chant into darkness. And joining them, do you hear? Crossing river, my mother. The Milky Way's ghostly band sweeps down beyond the mesas, over the road through Eagle Pass for an old spirit's journey. Someday soon, someday soon. Thank you.
I'm J. Glenn Evans, a poet, novelist, and political activist, and I'll read a couple of poems, and then we'll get to some more real good stuff, our open mics, and they are good. This is Sacred Moment. Breechclout head wrap is only apparel. Apache stands on stones in the river. Cool, clear water runs over his feet. Alert, he listens to the quiet trickle. First, forest bird calls, breeze in the trees, spirit music for a soul that is free. This is My Grandfather Spoke. When I was young, my grandfather spoke, told me things I did not understand. We sat cross-legged and faced each other under a blackjack oak tree out in the field. Day was warm and sunny under blue sky. Redbird in the tree chirped its song. Grasshoppers and butterflies flew about. As we sat there, my grandfather said to me, "My son, I am old. I will not be long. The earth cries for our wisdom. Most of the bear are now no more. No buffalo roam free. Fox and wolf have no place to go. These things were many when I was young. My grandfathers were unwise men. They welcomed invaders as friends and gods. When they came to know this was foolish, they fought and argued among themselves. The enemy grew stronger, we grew weaker. Many died from white man's sickness. Now, too late to fight, we are beaten. We are few, they are many. Bear and buffalo are gone. Fox and wolf have no place to go. I hear the earth cry for our wisdom. Time will come when only the foolish rule. Their foolish ways destroy, and bear and wolf have no place to go. I hear the earth cry for our wisdom. You must learn to lead these people, my son. Love and protect this place that is our home. Room for bear and wolf and all people. I hear the earth cry for our wisdom. Years have passed since my grandfather spoke. I know what he was trying to tell me. They cannot hear my grandfather's voice. I hear the earth cry for our wisdom. Thank you. Okay, we have our open mics now. I have some names down. Does anyone else post? Brian Stewart.
This one's called Autumn. The trees are glowing with their bright and brilliant striking colors, showing their leaves with beautiful shades of red, orange, and yellow. The cool, windy air continues to blow them away one by one, as the trees begin to lose their leaves to their surrounding landscapes. They sail effortlessly through the air like the light weight of feathers, landing at random on the grounds upon their gentle fall, continuing to blanket our paths far ahead, creating soft bedded paths that soften and silence our footsteps. Many colors remain stretching out before us as far as our eyes can see. Some trees with their bare branches reaching into the sky like spires in the wind. Other branches still full of their colors hanging and arching over country roads, as nature just takes hold, making such splendid canopies like short tunnels in travel. So this season in nature just continues its glory of beauty until eventually, after its great creation, it just gradually fades into the next, completing the cycle of its life until it comes full circle. Give a couple others. Thank you. The Ocean's Wonder. The ocean's vast array goes for miles and miles, far and wide, shores to sandy shore, showing its most awesome beauty of brilliant blue with ripples of many. Some waves, large and tall, as if to sweep a path of great power, much strength of plenty, until it soon begins its fall and just lowers to a gentle crawl. Faint squawks of seagulls can be barely heard overhead as they begin to fade into the distance. As I begin to feel the air of the ocean's gentle, cool breeze, I can almost taste its strong but salty sweet smell as it just lightly caresses my very face. The crashing of the ocean's gentle waves seeping closer onto the soft, warm, sandy shore, creating foamy suds of white like a soapy bath upon their ending rest, ending their travel onto the beach with a fine spray as if letting out their last given breath. From their long journey from far abroad, it now provides a beach bed of soft, grainy sand. It remains littered with many seashells, some broken at others as unharmed as can be. For a few shells remain whole with their beauty still in sight. They remain littered like small stepping stones of various shapes and sizes, half buried and remaining in the sand among all the sand dollars that lived out their life, basking and appearing to be gleaming a brilliant white in their afternoon sunlight. Tiny little rock crabs hiding in small, shallow pools of water under rocks being washed ashore. A starfish being a rare find, thinking of how to make his next move out to his sea home. For the ocean has plenty more of much bigger life, as it just remains hidden in its endless depths. But who knows what secrets just remain hidden deep and far within, clearly out of sight. Only God can see all its hidden treasure it holds, for the sea belongs to him and in much delight. We need not give up our adventure of the sea, because it is a great mystery for all of us to see. Its reasons are many. It remains a water of life that feeds a fish and provides for all of mankind. I have one more. This one's called The Water of Life. The brave Indian stands by the cedar guarding a natural watering hole. He is faithfully guarding this secret place. He stands still as a loyal protector, guarding it with his very life. This ancient body of water has been told for generations to provide eternity to the soul. It also provides a great life to those that drink from it. Only a few chosen but highly trusted of this native tribe of people have knowledge of its secret existence and access to its great wealth of properties. Its depths are unknown, but its water is the purest one could ever taste or drink. The protection of it against outsiders is a matter of life or death, providing that they may destroy or steal from it. Its cool blue waters ripple silently and gently as a waterfall of life that continually feeds it, continues to flow more life in its depths. It provides a place of such beauty, peace, and tranquility within the surrounding deep forest it hides in. A round, crude stone wall encircles the body of water located amongst some nearby cedar trees. The rich soil and the water of life soak into their large roots and continue to give them much-needed life. Their strong smell of fresh, healthy cedar leaves a scent like sweet honey as they provide oxygen to the surrounding air and to the heavens high above.
Okay. Michael McGee.
I'm going to read a poem by Thomas Hubbard, who couldn't be here. So I'm going to try to channel his voice, which is very deep, very booming. I carried $5 and a bag of tobacco to old Buffalo grandmother way out on the res, and explained how, even though Mom tried to raise me mainstream, I wanted to prove once and for all that I'm an Indian. Buffalo grandmother accepted my gifts, inviting me inside, then shut off her boombox and said, "We can be part of the mainstream with pretty good success, but in the end, we're still Indians, more or less." I told her about driving around the country, attending all those powwows, watching fancy dancers and filling up on greasy fry bread won't make you Indian. That's what she said. Well, I told her about the dream catchers and the feathers inside my car. That dream catcher and those feathers, they make your car look perky. But the dream catcher's made in China, and the feathers are turkey. Well, I sat up straight like a brave, and I stared out her cabin window, gazing to the horizon with a noble profile and a stoic face. Won't get you much of any place. Well, I folded my red bandana into a strip, and I tied it around my head. And if you gaze at the horizon while you're driving to the powwow, even with turkey feathers all around and dream catchers hanging down and a red bandana on your head, you could end up dead or stuck in a ditch way off the road or rear-ending a truck with a heavy load or getting a traffic citation to pay, but it won't make you an Indian no way. Well, I rolled up my sleeve and I showed her my rich, dark tan. You can even tan your bum cleavage and the soles of your feet, but still not be an Indian despite all the heat. Nonchalantly, fingering my braid, I told her about walking through the forest with my wooden flute and my painted drum. Drunken deer hunters might shoot you. Maybe they should. If you solemnly stumble through the wood, tooting your flute and thumping your drum, with your braid hanging down to your sunburnt bum. But it won't show you're an Indian, just that you're dumb. Well, getting up to leave, I mumbled my disappointed goodbye, but she stopped me with a gesture. On the other hand, you could be fishing in a lake, or in the backyard working with a rake, or strolling to the grocery store, or on the avenue trying to score, or waiting at the crossing for a long freight train, or riding your bicycle in the rain, or cussing and griping as you wash the dishes, or just daydreaming, making silly wishes, or playing guitar in a rock and roll band, or walking home in the morning with your shoes full of sand and suddenly realize that you're an Indian, that you always have been, and you won't have to prove anything to anybody ever again. She stood up and she showed me to the door. Outside, father, son smiled down just like before. Yeah, so that's Thomas Hubbard. And then I'm going to read you a poem called Pathogenesis, because I grew up on the Duwamish River. As a little boy, I used to play on the river. Pathogenesis, the nature of disease. The ferry boats are made of white-boned china. They sail in spirits across the water from Bremerton, past Alki and Duwamish Head, a drumbeat engine thrumming in my head. Safe port below the silver clouds, I sleep in my bed near the Burlington Northern Rail Yard, rolled up in my blanket like a cigarette. The world made visible in smoke and wind, vibrations sent along the line from another train's thunder. Meanwhile, the feather of a gull floats in the air above my skin. A girl on wings, she calls my name. Oh, Santa Fe! Your headlight burns a ring in my overcoat. A leaf leaves color in the autumn air. Yellow words mingle with red paper from the vine maple, the scroll of a madrona's parchment as starlings scatter in the air like crosses. Oh, Santa Fe! The crow is cursing in the lines. A cough comes from the throat of the nearby woods, and the robins nest in the masts of the birch trees. If I could find a way around this cold that thickens like sugar in my blood, just for a cup of joe to hold against my chest, oh brother, would you spare some of your heartwood so I could live again and stir in me a breath? Give voice to my fire all along the ground. I hear my belly rumbling, my ears, they echo like tin cans. A wire is strung tight for me to hear, but there are only lullabies from the rail beds where long-lost children once lived. I wake to the ashes of dawn, and what I wouldn't give to rub my eyes and find the pennies someone had just put there for luck. Thank you. I want to thank Phil, my younger brother, because I'm a year older than you. I always think of you as my younger brother. You know, even though you're an elder cedar, I think of you as my younger brother. Happy?
Okay, so when I was born, I had 3 great-grandmothers. One was second generation Italian. The other one was second generation Blackfoot, and the other one's second generation Cherokee. And then we got Brown along the lines. And this poem I wrote, I guess, about 13 years ago. and I think it applies to all indigenous cultures. This past December 21st, the solstice, I was with a Hopi elder, and one of the things that the elders are saying across the globe is that we need to wake up. We are being given a choice to become loving and compassionate and and love each individual as we love ourselves, or we can continue down this consumerist road and destroy our earth. We must wake up. This is not a joke. This is not a new age movement. This will determine whether or not we survive, whether or not our children survive, our children's children, our earth will survive. So that's not a poem, that's just me ranting. So. We have kneaded and baked, soul food for you to take. It's no more need for funk fake, for creation and balance sake. Let me say that again. We have kneaded and baked, soul food for you to take. It's no more need for funk fake, for creation and balance sake. You better waste not. You better waste not. Now that you are here, the guardians are speaking so clear. They say, my dear, hand to us your fears. You are no mere mortal. You have access to infinite portals of creation. Let us show you elation beyond this earthly meditation. Not a vacation, more like a vocation. We will teach you the science of invocation. You no longer need to be chasing falsities in cities. So open up and be free. Drips of water. Who pours drips of water on the ground for libation? Drips of water on the earth inspires birth and touches ancient bones like the internet and phone. Mantra, yantra, intone. Your spiritual to direct the physical. The soul must direct the ego, must direct the mind. The spiritual to direct the physical. We will feed you because we indeed need you. Seed you be if we remember before crossing the sea. Jinyam, no break. Constant continuity, you have ingenuity used in earth, infused with your earthly memory. We agree to be like Yoda, we will heal and hold ya, please allow us to mold ya. Creeping fears of loneliness want you to step into the abyss. We know of the hurt and how you depress and digress from the stress and the oppress. This journey is no easy test, yes. Pain and shame will come, but that's only until you know one, yes. The only true sum, then pure bliss will come, and love and compassion. So come, come, come. We have kneaded and baked, soul food for you to take. It's no more need for funk fake, for creation and balance sake. Spend your time rebuilding our earth. Waste not, this time is precious. Waste not, plant the seeds for healing. Waste not. So it is.
Wayne Roberts?
This poem resulted from wanting to, a friend of mine and I wanted to actually get into the mind, the native mind. And so we ate a lot of peyote, and we went out into the mountains, and I got a poem out of it. And it's called Listening to the Light for Chris Prim. And when I came to the place where the old oaks grow, I knew why men had worshipped the trees. Understanding older than the oak grew in me of the old ways. For I had breathed in the belly of the stone when stone was not, had grown in the core of the oak before the thorn of the wild rose tore me. The leap of the wild hare was in my feet. Hornet wing and hornet sting were my hope and faith. And when I sang, the raven's call floated from my beak. The wisdom of the ages from the mouth of sage and seer is not lost, but hidden. Where water wears down rock, the hills hold, the puma slows, all things rest and are right, where the trees speak the light.
Now, this is a public event, and we've recorded it for possibly TV and maybe radio. I haven't asked anyone to sign a release, so I'm making a public announcement. If you do not want yourself to be published, write me a piece of paper and say, "Don't publish mine," and we'll edit you out. So that's the official announcement, so everybody else is in, so we're legal. Finally, you know, the U.S. government has yet to apologize for its centuries of genocide, confiscation of lands, and gross injustices committed against all indigenous peoples. I speak for many of us when I, in the name of Americans today, apologize for that cruelty, the injustice, and the crimes. We must forge networks to work together and make this a better world for all, not just a few grabbers. We can and must work together to transform our society, and we can do it through truth-telling. We can help to heal by building a collective vision and form strategies for networking. Thank you all very much for coming, and I would appreciate if you can help us put some of the chairs back. Oh, listen, we hope to make this an annual event. Hopefully each tribe will do it and invite the public out for a performance of sharing poetry and poems, and it will help in our understanding and also share their wisdom on how to save the earth that is rapidly deteriorating on us. Thank you.